So having been out of work for about 2 years now, one of the questions I'm most likely to hear in an interview is explain the gap in your resume. Generally, my answer to this question is that I've been doing hobby projects to keep my skills sharp. Today I wish to expand upon that answer. But before I get into that, I'd like to state for the record that I am actively seeking my next opportunity. I live within an hour's cycle of Swords, Dunleary and Blanchardstown, so if your premises is betwixt those places, I would be ecstatic to hear from you. Firstly, there's Chessboard2Net, an Angular application that allows you to play chess with another player in real time using WebSockets. This was developed between the 19th of February and the 24th of April 2024. I created it because I was in the running for an Angular related position at the time, and I needed to bulk up my Angular portfolio. And then there's Soothing Noise Player, an open source Android application written in Java and released on F-Droid with 39 stars on GitHub at time of recording. This was initially developed from the 26th of February to the 9th of March 2024 and is maintained to this day. I created this because I'm autistic and I find it calming. Lastly, there's the subject of today's monologue, sketchchat, aka the project TM. sketchchat is my own personal blogging website on which I was hoping to catch some of the refugees of the Reddit exodus of 2023 before my timeline went to bedlam and my design sensibilities changed. Development commenced on the 13th of July 2023 and the website went live on the 18th of May 2025. To be completely fair though, this timeline beguiles the fact that the entire codebase was junked and rewritten from scratch several times. The first version commenced development on the 13th of July 2023 and was abandoned on the 27th of April the following year. It was the most long-lived version of the project, though ironically not the most feature-rich. Indeed, while it supported core features like login, custom user badges, and sketch posts, features that would have needed to have been built into the foundations, such as blocking users, were absent, and due to the backend's flawed design and poor documentation, it eventually became impossible to iterate upon. The original tech stack used the Python AIOHTTP framework, a pure JavaScript front-end, and a MariaDB database with caching by Redis. This immediately ran up against inconsistent behavior on the JavaScript side, as loading scripts via script source has a tendency to behave differently depending on whether the script has been cached. This also made invalidating cached scripts cumbersome. To address this issue, the C precompiler was employed to provide some level of templating whilst providing first paint times on par with static content. Also, at some point in V1's lifecycle, MariaDB was swapped out for Postgres. Given V1 was using Squelchemy, this was almost a one-line change, though I will note that there was some weirdness on how it handles output from the bcrypt.hashpw function, which broke my register endpoint. I believe there were three fundamental flaws with this version of the project. Firstly, the refusal to use JavaScript dependencies from NPM limited the front-end's potential. For example, when enabling two-factor authentication, the front-end has to query the back-end to generate a QR code to scan with Google Authenticator, and because everything had to be a JSON response, that meant a low-resolution QR code. Not good UI design. Secondly, there was an obsession with interconnectivity. I wrote a build script that ensured certain variables were available to both the front end and the back end to minimize code duplication, but some of the things I used it for were patently insane. For example, I had endpoints.py full of constants that were not checked at compile time on the Python side and not checked at compile time on the C precompiler side, so I was just burying the actual value of things for no good reason. Lastly, the backend of V1 utterly failed the dry principle. You could request a post by ID or a list of posts, and both would return data in the same shape, except the posts by ID wouldn't include the ID because of redundancy, which was a headache to implement properly and meant a lot of dancing around. Which takes us to V2. V2 was developed from the 3rd of May to the 8th of August 2024. It was the shortest lived version and also the most feature barren. It swapped the pure JavaScript frontend for AngularJS. If you look at the timeline, you will note that this is around the time I had a shot at the Angular job and was looking to fluff up my Angular portfolio. I do not look back upon V2 fondly. It has its advantages. It could, for example, generate a QR code for Google Authenticator on the client side. It also looked great and felt modern in a way I could never replicate with JavaScript alone. but its backend was even more nonsensical than V1 due to trying to solve the dry problems at the database level, which made it confusing to work with. Plus, its arbitrary caching times led to pages being somehow less responsive than V1, despite this being an area where Angular ought to excel. Which finally takes us to the working version. This is developed between the 6th of December 2024 and the 18th of May 2025. The front end was switched back to that JavaScript C precompiler thing, but this time with Browserify so I could take advantage of node dependencies and still have things like local generation of QR codes. I also removed Redis entirely from the stack, partially because an over-reliance on caching was making the app seem unresponsive, and partially because Redis started beef with the false community and I wasn't sure it would be available in the Debian repositories by the time the site went live. Also, I resolved that this would be the final version. Either this version would be finished, or I'd stop wasting time and energy on a project that would never be completed. As this is the work I wish to be judged upon, I'm going to go into a lot more detail than I did for V1 or 2, spotlighting and demonstrating various features that I'm proud of or think are interesting. Okay then, without further ado. You would think that auto-adapting to system theme changes would be challenging in pure JavaScript, but there's actually a reasonably well-documented interface in the browser that you can hook into and react to. Though just in case the user is using an old operating system without theme settings, such as Windows Vista, there is an override in the Settings tab that does not require login. I can't really demonstrate much else without creating an account, so let's register. The login page will show you a registration form or a login screen, depending on whether you enter an existing username. Upon successful registration, you'll be automatically redirected to the profile settings screen. Upon subsequent logins, you'll be redirected to the index page. The namesake feature of the application is Sketches. The app includes an image editor written in pure HTML and JavaScript, which allows you to make simple diachrome images. You get access to black or white depending on whether the post is viewed in dark mode, and a second color calculated as the first 6 digits of the MD5 sum of your username. Not your display name, we'll get to that later. Sketches render differently in dark mode. Once you are finished drawing, you can click the save icon and it will be presented with a form. When you are happy with that, you click the post button and will be redirected to the created page of your new post. You may notice the ticking post age. The code for this can be traced all the way back to V1. You may also create text posts. Like many other social media sites, including Reddit and GitHub, the post editor supports Markdown, achieved using the Markdown IT library. The editor allows you to preview your submission rendered as Markdown before posting. It is also possible to post galleries of images to the site, though you are limited to about 100 megabytes per gallery due to the configured max post body size. You can provide descriptions and other metadata for each image individually. You may notice that when you hit the submit button that it is replaced by an animated loading icon. This icon comes down at a mere 1.5 kilobytes, so it should have no problems loading. Once the upload has completed, then you will be redirected to the post page. To browse the gallery, click the left and right sides of the image, or press left or right on your keyboard, or click the numbered buttons below the image. Self-expression is the lifeblood of any social media platform. As such, you can change your display name, preferred pronouns, age visibility, and profile picture as often as you like. When you make changes on the profile customization page, the relevant Save button will be highlighted, and if you try to leave without saving, the browser will present a dialog to confirm. Your profile picture, username, preferred pronouns, and age appear on your user badge, which appears on all posts and comments you make. Your biography will only appear on your profile page. You may leave comments on posts. You may reply to comments and reply to replies in return. Only 3 layers of comments are loaded upon page load, and additional comments may be loaded by clicking the plus button. Text and sketch comments are supported. New comments only appear upon page reload. To permit reloading of comments as they are created would require a message queue, which is not a part of the current stack. If you have unread notifications, the number of unread notifications will appear next to the notifications charm on the header. You receive notifications when a user who you follow creates a post, when someone comments on a post that you have made, or when someone replies to one of your comments. You may also receive notifications from the system. As seen with the dynamic login form, I take a novel approach to security. Before editing security settings, you must authenticate again. From security settings, you may enable any combination of supported authentication methods and then decide how many are required for login. At present, traditional passwords and Google Authenticator are supported as authentication methods. As long as you have another authentication method enabled and have more available factors of authentication than required factors of authentication, you can disable your password entirely. You may also view and remotely log out sessions from other browsers. Finally, it is possible to change your username once every 6 months. This will also change the URL of your profile page and your user color. In the event that the API is bogged down and not responding quickly to requests, the application will show a loading icon while it fetches stuff in the background. The necessity for this became rapidly apparent as soon as the application was deployed to real infrastructure. Remember, everything looks faster on localhost. You can add tags to your post. You can click on a tag on a post to see more posts with the same tag. You can follow tags, and posts with the tags you follow will appear in the My Tags tab. A tag can be any combination of characters, including emoji. Some tags are special and are rendered as fancy tags. Additional fancy tags can be added based on what tags are most popular. Whenever you upload an image or sketch, you have an option to provide metadata. Content descriptions exist to provide descriptions for screen readers.
17 hours ago. A butterfly, but even closer image. Selected.
If you add content warnings, these will be shown to the user before they are served the image, unless they have asked not to be shown such content warnings again. If you mark the image as an SFW, it'll never be shown to people whose birthdays are less than 18 years in the past. All metadata also applies to profile pictures. If a user is misbehaving and ignoring the site rules, you can contact the admins by reporting them. After you have filled out a report and click the Submit button, you'll be redirected to the index page. Admin users have access to the admin console. From the admin console, they have the power to see the audit logs, which show all sorts of useful information like when users change their names or delete posts or comments. It also allows them to see user-submitted reports. From the report browser, they can navigate to the user's profile page. Admins have access to additional functionality from the profile page. For example, they can issue bans. They may also grant or revoke permissions that restrict access to site functionality. Clicking the question mark on the top right corner of the screen will show you a help page. This help page changes based on whether you're logged in and whether you're an admin, hiding features that are not currently relevant to you. Okay, conclusion time. There's a lot of things you only learn from doing. For example, did you know that the HTTP 2.0 standard did away with the status messages, which I was using to signal error messages should be displayed on the front end, making this application H2.0 incompatible with a moderately expansive rewrite? 'Cause I sure didn't. I learned a lot of little things like that working on so close to the bones of the browser. I learned about the e-tag behavior, where the browser tells you what version of the asset it got with its last request, and you can send a 304 not modified back and save time and bandwidth. I learned to document my lovely backend so I'm not literally crushed under the weight of decisions I no longer understand the rationale of. I'd use this tech stack again in a heartbeat. It's modular, fast, and it teaches you to solve errors you wouldn't even be able to imagine within a JavaScript framework. Well, until they happen, and then you can't do anything about them because they fall within the purview of the framework's job. So yeah, that's sketchchat. Thanks for watching. I dearly hope to be sitting across an interview table from you someday soon. Bye.